Hello, today's the big day. It's May 17th. That means episode 1 of my series is out on DeviantArt. You can go read it right now if you want. It's out. I'll leave a link, and it's also linked on my YouTube channel page. So, yeah, it's cold in here. That's why I have my blanket. Also, I'm a little sick still. So, sorry if I, sniffle and stuff, but hey. So we're gonna get to it. We're gonna read through episode 1. Uh yeah, weekly episodes are coming out every Sunday now. So if you have questions about the show, or if you have or series, or if you have a feedback, leave it leave it in the comments below. Without further ado, let's get to it. I'm a little tired, sorry. I woke up not too long ago. Yeah. Alright, let's get to it. Sundays. Alright. Okay. So, this is gonna be weird. I'm gonna be looking over here a lot because I have my iPad here, so I can read it off of here. So, I guess you could mostly listen. You don't have to watch this one. You just kind of can listen to it. Maybe you can imagine it in your head. Close your eyes. Imagine the world, characters and stuff, whatnot. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know. I never read my stories like this. Okay. Here we go. Grace was nervous about her first day as a freshman at Soberg High School. Not the greatest reader, by the way. Depends on the day, but hey. Grace isn't the most social person, and because of this, she never had many friends, and because this was a new school, she didn't have any at all. She gently rests her head against the window of her mom's car, watching others biking through the street, full of happiness and excitement. Don't worry, Grace. I'm sure you'll meet some new friends today, her mom says with a soft smile as she pats her daughter's thigh. Grace sighs, not moving her head. Mom, you know I hate talking with new people, she says, nervously, with some emotional pain seeping through. Her mom sighs sympathetically as her eyebrows furrow. Upon arriving at her new high school, Grace gives her mom a kiss on the cheek. You'll do great, sweetie, her mom says with a soft smile as she leans back after the kiss. Grace sighs nervously and nods ever so slightly. Thanks, Mom. Grace opens the car door and steps out onto the pavement, her mom's car having parked right in front of the gates. I love you, her mom says as Grace takes in the sight of her new high school. Love you too, Grace replies before closing the car door. Take some deep breaths. I tend to do this when I'm reading. I don't know why. Okay. As she steps through the front gates of the school, textbook in hand and backpack on her back, her breath is shaky as her nerves really kick in. Grace looks around, seeing friends laughing together, and even some freshmen making new friends already. Come on, Grace, she whispers to herself as she looks down with her eyes closed, squeezing her textbook slightly tighter as she tries to build up the courage to talk to someone. But it was as if the universe didn't want her to make friends, because as soon as she opens her eyes and spots a girl sitting by herself, the bell rings. The first period of the day has begun. Grace sighs, saddened by the unfortunate timing. Before walking into the building, she opens her textbook to the first page where she has written down the classes she has that day, along with the rooms that she needs to be in. She sees that her first class is chemistry in room 303. She looks around and spots the stairs, going up to the third floor and finding room 303. She walks in, seeing some classmates settling into their seats. As she sits down at a random desk alongside her classmates, the chemistry teacher standing at the front of the class begins to speak. Good morning, class. Welcome to Soberg High, your new school. Well, new school for most of you, right, Mikey? The teacher says with a wink as he turns to one of Grace's classmates, Mikey. Grace looks over at Mikey out of curiosity, along with most other students. Mikey rolls his eyes in annoyance, the hood of his hoodie up as he sits lazily in his chair. The teacher continues. I'll be your chemistry teacher, Tristan Blake, but you can call me Mr. Blake. Mr. Blake says as he grabs a marker and writes down his name on the whiteboard. Grace looks around the class at her classmates, trying to spot someone that she could try talking to. Suddenly, she spots the very same girl from before, sitting across the room. Her eyes widen a little as she realizes that this is the person she'll try talking to. Mr. Blake turns back to the class as he reveals what they'll be doing today. Now, since it's the first period of the first day, I won't be teaching you guys anything. However, we will be playing a fun game to get to know each other. Deep breaths. I did it again. Okay. Where was I? Oh, right. Wait, hold on. Okay. Mr. Blake explains as he reaches into his desk's top drawer and grabs a small red ball from it. A few minutes later, all the desks have been moved into the corners of the room while the students sit in their chairs, which are now set up in a circle. You can toss the ball to anyone, and that person has to tell us something about themselves along with their name. Mr. Blake explains the game before looking around and tossing the ball to Mikey. Mikey, who is sitting back in his chair rather lazily, lets out a deep sigh as he sits up and grabs the ball from off the floor. I'm Mikey, and I was held back a year, so this is my second year here, he explains nonchalantly, clearly not wanting to be there. Very good, Mikey. You may toss the ball to someone else, Mr. Blake says, with a soft smile as he looks at him. Mikey looks around, his eyelids lazy as he spots Grace. He tosses the ball over to her, and Grace fumbles a bit but manages to catch it. Grace takes a deep but shaky breath as her heart rate quickens a little. Hi, I'm Grace. I like sci-fi stuff, and I'm pretty shy, Grace says with a soft and shy voice as she looks at the floor. Mr. Blake smiles softly as she looks at her. Nice to meet you, Grace, and don't worry, by the end of the year, I'm sure you'll have a lot of friends. Grace nods softly, an awkward smile on her face for a split second as she looks around at her other classmates. She rolls the ball over to the girl she wants to be friends with, who picks it up. Hey, I'm Dana, and I play basketball, Dana says with a soft smile as she turns to the teacher, who gives her a smile too. Oh, how long have you been playing? He asks curiously. About 5 years, I believe, Dana replies before rolling the ball to another student. After the first period ends, Grace and her classmates walk out of room 303 and head off to their next class. Grace notices Dana not too far ahead of her, seemingly heading in the same direction. Grace awkwardly walks up next to Dana, avoiding eye contact. Oh hey, you headed to 114 as well? Dana asks as she notices her. Grace clears her throat as she turns to Dana, finally looking in her eyes. Yeah, she says with a small, awkward smile. Cool, Dana says with a soft smile as she looks back at her. Sorry. After finishing the first day, Grace gets home and flops onto her bed with her phone in hand. She suddenly gets a notification causing her phone to buzz. She looks at her screen and sees a follow request from Dana on Instagram. Grace's eyes widen as she sits up on her bed, clicking the notification. She accepts Dana's follow request and sends her one back, which Dana quickly accepts too. Hi, Grace, Dana texts her. Grace smiles happily as she types back, hi, with subtle hesitation before hitting send. What are you doing? Dana texts back, asking her what she's doing. Just in bed right now. How about you? Grace replies, returning the question to Dana, who replies with the same LOL. Suddenly, a strange object flies through her already open window, and Grace looks at it. She puts down her phone and kneels down to grab it. She stands back up, looking at it. It's some kind of cube. Then, like something out of her favorite sci-fi movie, Grace is teleported away from her home and into a small spacecraft. Grace frantically looks around in a panic. Huh? She exclaims as her breath quickens. Don't fret, a rather deep yet smooth voice says behind her, causing Grace to turn in one quick turn. A figure walks out of the shadows, a rather tall man with long black horns that have glowing white spots on them. His eyes are also glowing a white color, as a thick and soft red fur coat gently rests on his shoulders, and black leather pants cover his legs. His eyes should have caught Grace's attention first, but her eyes were drawn to something else. His chest, this human-like being, wasn't wearing a shirt and was rather ripped. He notices her looking and scoffs, smirking in a smug way as he slowly walks over to Grace. Suddenly, the man grabs Grace by the neck, squeezing it as he chokes her. "It will all be over soon," he says with that same voice, while Grace tries to gasp for air and free herself. Her eyes, uh, sorry, her eyes start seeing black as Grace goes unconscious. Her arms, which were grabbing the man's soft red fur sleeve, drop down and go limp. Same goes for the rest of her body. The man drops her onto the floor and chuckles softly as he walks away. Rest well. When Grace finally wakes up again, she finds herself strapped to a bed that looks vaguely like that of a hospital. She tries to free herself, grunting softly as she shakes her body, but nothing works. "Oh no, I'm gonna die," she says in a panicked yet soft-spoken and breathless manner. "Calm yourself, child," a voice calls out as a snake-like figure wearing a lab coat slithers into the room with a needle. "Now hold still. This will only take a moment." The figure, who is dressed in a lot. I just realized that's a mistake. It's fine. Who is dressed in a long white medical coat and some steampunk-like goggles, says, as he leans in and sticks the needle into Grace's arm. Grace whimpers softly as she looks up at the ceiling. "Why a needle?" she whispers to herself, hating them. The snake-like doctor then starts slithering away from the bed. Grace turns to her arm and sees blood flowing through a tube, causing her to feel worried and her eyes to widen. "I'm sure you have lots of questions, and the least I can do is answer them honestly." "So, wait," the doctor says as he grabs a chair and places it beside Grace's bed. "So, go ahead, child." The doctor leans in a bit with a creepy smile after taking a seat. Sorry. Grace's breath shakes as she thinks about what she wants to ask. "Where am I?" she asks with a soft and scared voice. "You're in the headquarters of an organization known as Zyrogue, run by Zyro himself," the doctor replies, using elegant and slow hand movements. "Is he the one who—" Grace tries to ask a question, and the doctor interrupts her with a "yes. He was the horned man who knocked you unconscious." "Why do you need my blood?" Grace asks, nervous and confused about that part. The doctor sighs as he looks her in the eyes. "Well, Zyro was—" You see his... But before he can answer her question, the red alarms begin blaring in the facility. The doctor looks back. "Ah, great," he groans with a sigh before speeding off and leaving the room. Grace's breath quickens as she starts to panic, looking around the room. She tries to shake herself free, but once again, she can't do so. Suddenly, a vent drops from the ceiling, which causes Grace to jump a bit and let out a small scream due to the loud clank. She looks up at the open vent on the ceiling, and suddenly a short girl drops down from it. Her back faces her as she holds a large wrench. The girl looks around the room before turning and landing her eyes on Grace. "Oh, hi, I'm here to save you," she says with a happy tone as she removes the needle from Grace's arm and loosens the straps. Grace sits up and looks at her arm, which has a drop of blood streaming down it. "What's happening?" she asks softly. "I'll explain later. Come on," the short girl says as she grabs her hand and runs into the hallway. The two look around, spotting guards everywhere, trying to find someone. "This way," the short girl calls out as she runs to their right. Grace, having no other option, runs after her. One of the guards spots them. "There she is, and she has the subject," he yells out as he points at the two of them. "Shoot," the short girl exclaims, looking around for options on how to deal with this predicament. She spots a metal beam spanning from one side of the facility to the other. She reaches into her tool belt and pulls out a grappling hook. "Hang on tight, friend," she yells out as she shoots it, Grace wrapping her hands around her. Grace's eyes widen for a moment as she hears the girl calling her a friend. "Friend?" she whispers to herself softly. Grace then blinks hard and snaps back to reality. "I don't understand," she yells out in a panic, but before being pulled by the grappling hook and towards the metal beam as gunfire tries shooting them. Grace screams as she flies as they fly through the air. Sorry. Guess this is a moment where you'll take a breath. I apologize for my stuttering and my sniffling again. hope you're enjoying it so far. We're about to get into the next part, so this next part, let's get into it. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Grace's mom was sitting on the couch next to her husband. Across from them were two police officers, one sitting and the other standing, who were asking them questions. What time did you notice that your daughter was gone? One officer asks, notebook at hit. He sits there ready to write her answer down. I don't know, maybe around 4:30 p.m.? Grace's mom says with a shaky voice, sniffling as she holds a tissue with shaky hands. I see. Did you notice anything strange when you went into her room and noticed she was gone? The same officer asks as a follow-up question. Not really. Her phone was on the bed, but that was it. Grace's mom replies as she blows her nose into the tissue, her husband gently rubbing her back to comfort her. I'm assuming she doesn't go anywhere without it? The second officer asks, to which Grace's mom replies with a nod. Yeah, that's right. Was the window open when you entered? The first officer asks as he finishes writing down her previous answer. Yes, it was. It was a hot day, though, so she always has it open on days like these. Grace's mom replies, wiping away a tear that is rolling down her cheek. Do you think she ran away? The second officer asks, kind of out of left field. Grace's mom turns to the officer with a slight scoff. Excuse me? The first officer turns to his partner, shaking his head a bit to try and tell him to stop. The second officer sits down on the couch beside his partner. Miss Atkins, was your daughter happy? Grace's dad chimes in, angered. Why are you saying it like she's dead? And yeah, she was, he yells at the officer, leaning forward. Do you ever have fights with her, or fights amongst yourselves? The officer just calmly continues asking his questions. No, that's the thing, Grace's mom yells out, bursting into tears again. Did she have any friends that she might have run off to? The officer continues, ignoring their emotions. No, she couldn't have gone anywhere, Grace's dad yells, confused by the questions. Are you even listening to us? She did not run off. So she had no friends, the officer asks, just to make sure he got a clear answer. No, both parents yell out simultaneously in both anger at these ridiculous questions and desperation of being heard. The first officer finishes writing it all down, the second officer staying quiet. All right, that'll do. First officer says as he stands up, and the other officer doing the same. Thank you for your cooperation. Wait, what? You're just gonna leave? Grace's dad asks, confused by them suddenly leaving. Sir, we believe your daughter ran away because of her struggles to make friends. The second officer replies as the first officer walks back to their car. Grace's parents stand there, completely stunned and speechless, as the officers drive away in their squad car. Grace didn't actually run away, did she? Some breaths. I'm not good at reading things. Alright. Meanwhile, Grace and the short girl run through the tunnel connecting Zyrogue's HQ with the girl's spaceship that she parked there earlier. Come on, friend, faster, the girl says as she looks back, spotting guards running after them. The guards begin blasting bullets at them, causing both Grace and the girl to duck their heads a little in a panic. The short girl realizes they can't make it like this. Run for the ship, I got this, she yells out to Grace as she stops and turns around, reaching into her tool belt. Grace stops when noticing her new friend seemingly sacrificing himself. What are you doing? She yells out, worried about what she might do. Run for the ship, she yells back at Grace before pulling out a special-looking wrench. The short girl starts deflecting bullets from the guards with their large wrench. Grace follows her instructions and runs for the ship. As she gets inside, she catches her breath and hides next to the door frame, with her eyes closed. Maybe sci-fi isn't so fun after all, she whispers to herself, still breathing heavily before opening her eyes. She stands up and walks over to the control area, noticing some dirt on her sleeve and wiping it off with her hand. When she looks straight ahead, she is shocked to see stars in the vacuum of space outside. At first, she thinks it's a screen tapping the glass, but it seems too real to be fake. Meanwhile, the short girl presses a button on the wrench that causes it to transform into a battle axe. The girl swings it, chopping off a guard's arm. The girl pauses in shock for a moment as she turns to look at the arm. Did I say he or she? I don't know, but it's he. As he sees it on the floor next to him, and the blood squirting from where it once was. The guard screams in agony. The girl finishes him off by slicing off his head before kicking it towards another guard and hitting him in the face. She swings her guard as she slides over to another guard and chops off their feet. Some guards, wanting to keep their body parts and lives, run off, while others stay and try fighting her. One guard hides behind a corner and speaks into his walkie-like device. "It's a massacre. That girl is slicing us up like we're butter," he says loudly, his body shaking in fear as he panics. While he does this, the squirting of blood, screams of guards, and sharp whooshes of the battle axe are heard from around the corner. The guard slowly tries peeking around the corner to see what the situation looks like, when suddenly someone's severed arm flies out from around the corner and lands on the floor in front of him. The girl spins her leg over the floor, tripping the last guard before swinging her battle axe downwards and smashing the guard's head beyond recognition. As she catches her breath, she sees more guards making their way over and not far in the distance. "Yep, that's my cue," she says as she turns the axe back into a wrench and shoves it into her tool belt. The girl sprints for the ship, Grace noticing her coming towards her, and as she leans out the door, "Come on." Let me just hold on. I apologize. It's unfortunate timing. Anyway, the backup arrives and they point their guns at her as the end of the tunnel gets closer and closer to her. Grace reaches out her hand, which the short girl grabs. Grace pulls her into the ship, the girl rushing into the control panel and slamming the button that shuts the door before the bullets hit them. "You might want to buckle up, friend," the short girl says, out of breath and panicked. But Grace is distracted by all the bodies in the distance and the bullets being fired at them. She can't take her wide eyes off of them until she snaps back to reality when the ship zooms forward. Grace flies back into a locker, denting it pretty badly as she grunts in pain. The grunt turns into panic screaming as the spaceship escapes Cyro. After about a minute, the girl slows down her ship. Grace falls back to the floor, creating a loud thunk sound as the girl sighs deeply in relief. "Okay," she exclaims while clapping her hands full of excitement. "Computer, set Choppa into autopilot mode." Turning on autopilot mode. Turning on autopilot mode. The computer replies in a typical robotic voice with a British accent. "Thank you, computer," the girl replies with a smile as she gets up and walks over to Grace, who has her hands on her back and groans in pain. "You okay, friend?" the girl asks, kneeling down and putting her hand on Grace's shoulder. Grace grunts softly as she stands up. "Think so. Sorry for all the girl starts imitating gunfire, people screaming and dying, and body parts flying everywhere. Yeah. Grace giggles softly as the girl does this, finding it pretty funny. The girl stops and notices, joining in with the laugh herself. "So, what's your name?" the girl asks Grace with a soft smile on her face. Bars. Grace nervously replies and says, "Grace, I'm Grace." "Nice to meet you, Grace. I'm Tolly," Tolly replies, overjoyed to have a new friend as she shakes Grace's hand harshly. After letting go, Tolly walks back to the control panel and looks out onto the stars and the vacuum of space outside. Grace walks over and stands beside her, also looking at the stars. "Who is Choppa?" she asks nervously as she rubs her arm, not wanting to be annoying. "Hmm? Oh," Tolly bursts out into laughter when she understands Grace's confusion. "Choppa isn't a person, it's my ship," she answers her question, looking up at the ceiling. Grace looks up too. "Oh," she says, feeling a bit silly now that the answer seemed so obvious. Tolly notices her slightly embarrassed expression and gives her a pat on the shoulder. "Don't worry, I get why you think that." Grace looks at her and gives her a smile, nodding softly as she does. "I'm sure you're wondering why I saved you, where you are, and why all of this is even happening in the first place, right?" Tolly asks, pressing a button on the control panel. As she pushes the button, a second chair pops up from the floor. Grace notices and is amazed by it, letting out a soft "whoa." Take a seat," Tolly says with a friendly smile as she sits down in her own chair. Grace walks over to the second seat and sits down, a little nervous. Let me run you through it all, Tolly says, before taking a deep breath and sitting back in her seat. Long ago, the planet Dormatar was thriving, but one fateful day, Hunteria attacked. Hunteria was a handcrafted planet who doubled as a large space station that could traverse the vacuum of space without issue. Tolly begins explaining, using dramatic and over-the-top hand movements as she does. Hunteria began bombing Dormatar, leaving no survivors, or so they thought. A few of Dormatar's dominant species remained. One of these survivors was Zyro, who at the time was a young boy. Zyro vowed to take revenge on Hunteria, and thus began building Zyrogue along with his fellow survivors. Zyrogue, from the outside, was just another agency that would protect the universe from threats, big or small. However, on the inside, it was a secret lab where they kidnapped people from all planets and of all species to figure out which one had the perfect blood to power their planet-killing weapon. That, Grace, is why you were taken from your home. Tolly wraps up her explanation on Cyro's backstory, or at least what she knows. Why me, though? Grace asks, confused as to why she specifically was chosen to be abducted and taken instead of the billions of other humans on Earth. Tolly sighs before replying with a heavy heart. Cyro has people looking for the perfect person to kidnap. They've been watching you for a while now, and I guess you seem like the one who'd disappear without too many people noticing. Grace's eyes begin to water. Not only was she taken from her home and nearly killed, she was also taken because nobody would miss her. Hey, it's okay. I understand that this is a lot, and it doesn't feel great. But you're my friend now, and I'll have your back until the day I die. Tolly comforts her, walking over to her, giving her a warm hug as Grace sobs into Tolly's shoulder. After a moment of hugging, Tolly pulls away, and looks Grace in the eyes. How many were there before me? Grace asks in a shaky voice while sniffling. I don't know. Assuming they've been building Zyrogue for well over 50 years, and have taken 10 new subjects a year, it's probably around 500 others, Tolly replies, not knowing the answer either. What happened to them? Grace asks, hoping that they're alive and out there somewhere. Tolly looks at her with a somber expression. They're dead, Grace. Grace breaks out into tears once more, and Tolly gives her another hug. Just found out about all this too. You're the first and only person I've saved. But I'll tell you this. Tolly pulls away and the two look each other in the eyes. We will take Zyrogue down, and we will get you home. A tear rolls down Grace's cheek as she sniffs and gives Tolly a firm hug. To be continued. So that was episode 1. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, sorry for my stuttering. Maybe it took you out of the world a little bit, but if you want to read it yourself, like I said, I'll leave a link to it, and also there's a link on my channel page to my DeviantArt account, so if you want to check it out and check out the following parts or episodes, you can do so over there. Yeah, I'm happy this is out there because it took me a while. So far it doesn't have much in terms of like numbers. It's got 81 views and no favorites or comments, but that's okay. Again, weekly episodes coming out for this, and if you have feedback or if you have questions about the series or the characters or whatever, let me know in the comments. Unless it's something that gets answered later in the show, I will answer it as well. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Sorry for the sniffling and stuff, but it is what it is, you know. Anyway, see you guys next time. Peace.